things.
Yeah, absolutely. And while it is sometimes frustrating at the stuff that artists don't know, it's not the end of the world. And often it just takes 5 minutes to explain to them. But it would be nice as a time saver, and also out of respect from them towards what we do, for them to at least understand the basics of sonics, really, and how audio works with human ears and perception. So yeah, that would be amazing. Artists, if you're listening, please just go and do this thing. It will make us all so happy, and it will help you as well. So
yeah, totally.
So then after that first round of feedback, then either I'll have the artist in and we'll start developing together, if they're quite hands-on, or I'll. It starts with the rounds of amends. We start to build, we start to test. I experiment a lot because I have had the privilege of working with music and audio kind of technology and those companies. So the first audio technology or music technology company I worked with was Rolly, who specialize in MIDI polyphonic expression, which is often known as MPE. And so I, outside of like a little like Akai kind of teeny weeny like MIDI keyboard, my next thing, there it is. Everyone's got one. Like the next thing I moved on to was a C-board. So that was like, but as a company, they are very invested in innovation. So it was very exciting to be around the development of basically their software as well as experiencing their hardware. So their presets have kept me going for a long time in terms of software, kind of Equator and Equator 2. And then, they acquired the company that do Strobe and Cypher. There's always been like a ton of stuff on my laptop to choose from. So I'm very keen for things to be melodic, but I'm also very keen for things to be a bit weird. And to have that slightly like for someone to listen and be like, what is that? What is that? And that's always been a big part of my music making. When I was bringing my demos to my first co-production, my first EP, my first kind of partnership with Ben and Jimmy, they kept looking at me and going, what have you done there? Tell me what this is. And it would be things like I was smacking a plastic lid off of my kitchen worktop, and I was putting, a ukulele through an octave multiplexer in the box, in the door, and things like that. And they were like, it sounds so screwed up, but it's so cool. And so there's always that edge. Like I always want to create something that people can access, but also stuff that keeps people guessing.
I love that. Got to experiment. And I remember like one of the very first episodes I did was with this guy named Taylor Reiner, and he was saying, just try cool shit. Just try it. And I had a recent interview with a guy named Daniel Silverman. He was just like, try pushing the Pultec to 10. Like, just see what happens. You know what I mean? Like, it's not surgery. Nobody's gonna die. so just do crazy shit.
Yeah, absolutely. Like noodle around with like oscillation for half an hour and just see what happens. Could be anything.
Yeah. Well, in terms of like, I mean, it's not exactly the same thing, but I've noticed that your drum rhythms are how do I say it, chaotic almost. Like they're just very like there's a very pulsating, lots of things happening. Like. I would say even for modern pop music, they're busy. They
are.
Like,
welcome to the neurodivergent brain.
Yeah. So please tell us a bit about your approach to programming drums. What are you trying to do?
Cool.
What inspires you?
Right. So basically, I am a frustrated drummer. Drumming is one of the few things that I have never been able to be super good at. Like I can percussion a lot. Very well, because my father's used to be a percussionist, and he still has enormous congos and
groove.
Like tons of little shakers just scattered around the house, and kind of these big like African drums that have got like goat skin on and things like that. So he's very keen.
Awesome.
And he does it when he can. So I had a really broad palette, and some of it is to do with the fact that, like I said, I want to create stuff that has an edge to it. But on the flip side, I am a pop writer. I write pop. Even when I'm trying not to write pop, I still write pop. And I am a sucker for a 4/4. So you will, even in the most chaotic stuff, you will still find it there, every single track. And sometimes I work with people that try and like drag me kicking and screaming away from 4/4, and I will try because I'm a good collaborator. But ultimately, it does end up being there all the time. But what I like is because I am neurodiverse, I am always looking for the new thing. My neurodiversity is ADHD. And so my brain thrives on novelty and on newness and on like me spotting like, oh, what is that? I haven't heard or seen that before. And so I do struggle with the fact that pop music has become so homogenized thanks to algorithms. If you don't know what that means, feel free to Google it. So I am always like, okay, let's start with like something that the kick is doing, whether it's like the 4/4 kind of douche douche douche, or whether it's kind of it's in the same timing structure but it's hitting on the offbeats, or it's hitting kind of a couple together and then separately. And then it's usually like kick and snare are somewhere in there at all times. I have a very conflicted relationship with toms. And so I tend to try and replace toms with something else just because I never find them, like my brain doesn't like them in terms of I don't find them very satisfying. And I thought for a while it was because the presets weren't very good, and I've just accepted that for some reason it doesn't work with my brain, and that goes for live as well most of the time. So I then have to substitute with something, and I want there to be always like a sense of the structure is consistent, but it's also moving. It's also keeping you on your toes. And so I really like to, find like little like stuff that you can find in most doors, really. They've got like 808 boutique kind of drum machine things. So it's like, okay, let's take one of those little kind of wood block sounds that sounds like the 80s, and then let's mess it up. Let's find a way to make it weird. Let's throw it through reverb. Let's have a little bit of delay on it. Let's put some distortion on it, just so it does come across a little bit different. Because, I mean, something I'm always saying about pop is the fact that people want it to sound fresh but familiar. They want there to be like an aspect of comfort around it. But ultimately, they do want something new, because we're now in a highly consumerist culture that wants new things all the time. So it's not just my brain. So that's why I'm always kind of playing with those structures. So after, like, you know, there is always, like I say, that key structure going on. But I just want people to be surrounded by, like, I want sounds to swirl around them. And that also then kind of moves into how I pan percussion. And I try not to pan it too wildly, because I realize that it makes some people feel a bit seasick.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And that's been a piece of feedback I've had more than once. But ultimately, yeah.
Those people are not going to take kindly to Atmos, I guess. Right.
I'll let you know. Actually, I might be doing something Atmos related in a few months, but that's an aside. So yeah, so there's always that sense of let's take something that people are used to and let's put a twist on it. And so that's how I end up with these complicated drum rhythms. But also, a lot of the time I want people to move to what I'm making. Even if it's not in a dance BPM that's like 110 or 120. I want there to be movement to it, because I'm someone who's moving all the time. Can you tell by how much I have gestured during this video?
Gesticulation crown.
Oh man, seriously. So I want that aspect of my personality is something I actually quite like, and I want that to translate into the sonics as well.
Awesome. And so you mentioned that you have also like you have all kinds of presets and stuff like that. How much of how much of it is templated, and how much of it is just like all the way from scratch?
Ooh,
on a typical production?
Such a good question. Honestly, not very much is templated. Like a lot of it, I try to approach every project fresh. Like I do have some go-tos. Like Rolly Studio Drums has like a really great, really tight selection of kits. And it's not a huge selection of kits. It's probably like 15 or something. But ultimately within that, you've got 16 sounds. So 16 sounds per kit. So then, I mean, my math is crap. So ultimately, you'll have to tell me how many sounds you've got there. So those are like the first place I'm going to get that structure in. But I'll always have a handful of buses set up, just because I know I will use them in every single project. So I've always got a reverb. I've always got low pass filter, high pass filter. I've always got Valhalla's Supermassive on a bus. Because I love it.
You never know what kind of throw you're going to have to make.
It's always useful for something. It's just one of these things that I can't believe that it's free.
All the Valhalla stuff is great.
Yeah, exactly. And I've always got tape delay on a bus. I've always got tape delay being used as a saturator on a bus. Like, these are the things that are there. As I'm creating rough mixes, there are all these things that I know I'm going to use like every single time to crisp things up. But yeah, and you know, and on the master bus as well, for like kind of those mixes going out, like I'll always have like a chain there, and I might not use. The thing is, I might not use all of these. I just want to know that they're there, and so that I don't then have to set them up.
You don't have to go looking for them.
Don't have to go looking for them. So you know,
bypassed until needed.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So on the master bus, I'll always have a chain that's, you know, channel EQ, compression, you know, and then you've got essentially like an adaptive limiter, a multipressor, like, and that all then just means that I can like click all of these, twiddle them a little bit, and then it will immediately sound more elevated in the ear of the listener. So yeah, so that's kind of where it's at. I'm trying to think of anything else that I have like definitely on like every single mix. Oh,
No
Waves vocal bender.
Oh, I don't know it.
Okay, so it's a Waves product.
I love Waves products, but I'm like on Mojave, and I'm on version 9, and as soon as I buy like any more Waves plugins, I'm gonna have to like whoop and spend $150, and I've just been like avoiding it
CPU.
for like 3 years. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I get that. But Waves has a vocal bender, which is basically great for like pitch, in terms of not just for voice, but for any audio file. You can like mess around with the pitch and the formant and just transform it into something different.
I actually think I have that one.
Yeah.
If it ever came in the gold bundle, I think I have it.
Yeah, you might have it. But also for I do have a chain in the buses that I call vocal polish, and again I will trade things out and put things in. But within that, I have EQ compression. I have a vocal doubler, and the vocal rider. That's another Waves one. The doubler I use is an isotope doubler. That I think is also free, actually. I have a vocal rider from Waves that just sort of smooths a lot of stuff out, and it has some very handy presets that means that I don't have to think too hard about like noodling with the settings to get it to where I want it. So yeah.
I haven't messed with the vocal rider, but it seems nice. Like
it is. It just adds that little bit of extra smoothness to the vocal. I mean, obviously, if you're trying to record a screamo punk band, then you might not want it. But like for pop in particular, it's lovely. And that was a recommendation to me from Ruby Smith, who is
Ruby's awesome.
Yeah, Ruby is
been
amazing.
on the show.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Oh, excellent.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, and Ruby's in
Awesome.
2% as well, and that's how we met. So Ruby's given me a little bit of kind of we pick up, you know, that's the point of the community. We pick up training and tricks from each other. So.
Totally. So I did want to ask you, so are you mixing some of the productions that you're doing? Are you sending them out? How much delegation are you doing in terms of like mixing?
It depends on the artist. Some artists come with people that they mix with regularly, and that person is used to dealing with their stuff, and that's totally fine. Like, that's so cool. I mean, I like mixing, but it's not my ultimate favorite. Like, my ultimate favorite is production, is making stuff in the door. But I am better at mixing than I was a year ago. Let me tell you that much. It's come a long way. And so
put in your reps.
Yes. So I will do it if an artist asks. Actually, a good couple of examples of this are, so I'm just polishing off doing additional production and mixing for a dance artist called Jagara, who sent this amazing demo to me that was called The Feels. And it's like It's everything you want from like a 90s dance banger.